Hi, this is Jebas with the Dork Den, and today we're going to be talking about the Ruby and Sapphire Pawpsicle control deck. So this deck is based around having some cheap items, a lot of draw card, and a lot of ramp combined with some of the more expensive board controlling cards like Be Prepared and Scar, as well as some of the really powerful finishers in Tamatoa and the Maleficent Monstrous Dragon to control and close out the game. So to start off, the deck functions with the Pawpsicle being one of the best cards that it's able to get in play. The Pawpsicle comes into play, draws a card, and has a secondary utility of being able to both banish and heal something, but also allow you to draw cards with your Flavershams. It allows you to draw cards with your Maurice's Workshop when you play it. You can get them back with the Tamatoa, get them back with Nick Wilde, and continue that draw engine going. So the general play pattern that this deck wants a lot of times is to be drawing a lot of cards, getting extra ink down with your Fishbone Quill with the cards that you don't necessarily need in that matchup, and then using things like the Maurice's Workshop and the Hiram Flaversham to keep those cards coming while you control the board with Be Prepared to get a lot of card advantage out of banishing more than one character at a time. Usually your opponent is able to build up a few things, get this down early. You can kind of surprise them a little bit. So we have quite a few different engines that the card has working for it. So the Maurice's Workshop allows all of your items to draw you additional cards for just a single ink cost. And if you have multiple workshops, all of them trigger as well. So you can be drawing 2 or 3 cards for every one of these one-drop items that you're playing. A very powerful early game play pattern is you Pawpsicle on turn 1, you 1-jump ahead on turn 2, and then on turn 3 you can actually Flaversham and just draw 2 more cards. So you've essentially added a lot to the inkwell while still having a pretty solid grip of cards in your hand. And that leads you very easily into some of your early control things like Maui. Some of the choices in the deck are specifically for the metagame, like the Mother Gothel being a 3/4, which does come into play with 3 damage on it. However, the Pawpsicle has the ability to heal it for 2, so you can sometimes get more than one challenge out of it. And there are very powerful cards with 3 toughness, or 3 willpower in this case, such as Arthur and many of the other Amethyst cards. So the 3 strength that Mother Gothel brings to the table is very powerful. Noi is very strong with items because it has ward and resist, so it is also able to challenge a lot of these really low to the ground aggro decks, while still being very good in combination with like the Shield of Virtue to quest with it for 2, untap it with the Shield of Virtue. It keeps it safe from opposing control decks, and you can gain a bunch of lore where it is able to be unchallenged from your opponent without some sort of an additional effect that would allow them to do that. The Teeth and Ambitions is a concession to a lot of the like evasive and more aggressive decks. You do need a little bit of ability to interact with them. Teeth and Ambitions can target the Noi of your own, but because of the resist, it will only take 1 damage instead of 2, so you can actually still deal the 2 damage to their card without having a ton of downside for it. When we get to our 3-drop slot, we've got our Fishbone Quills and our Workshops. These are sort of your engine pieces for the deck, as well as Judy Hopps, which is a very nice toolbox card. Being able to sometimes destroy your own items to draw a card is nice, but there are a few situations where an opponent may have something like the Spellbook that it is better to give them a card to banish that than it is to allow them to continue to have it. Nick Wilde is just an additional copy of the Pawpsicle, which works very well with Flaversham here. You want as many Pawpsicles as you can get so that you can keep drawing those cards. Once we get to our typical control cards, you see our Maui. Maui is very good at challenging things on the board. It was before, it still is. Let It Go is a bit more targeted removal. Then we get to our board wipe cards. If we could run more Be Prepareds, we probably would. But since we can't, Scar does a very good impression of basically being a super Maui and coming in and taking out more than one target at a time and then untapping each time. especially with Pawpsicle, sometimes you can heal it for even more reach as far as that's concerned. And then we get our Maleficent Dragon, which is very, very strong. Comes into play, banishes a character, leaves behind a 7/5 that can 2-lore, which is very, very good. And then Tamatoa is really the big item payoff outside of the drawing of cards, because both when it enters and every time that it quests, it is able to get an item back from your discard pile. And it counts every item that you have in play as an additional lore. So you can very frequently, if you get to untap with a Tamatoa, quest for 5 to 10 pretty comfortably in the later game, which can close it out very, very quickly, if not immediately. So this version of the deck is sort of a stock list, so based on the metagame a little bit. There is another version that has a combo, which you can actually tweak this one and add that combo just by adding a handful of cards here. So we've got Grand Pabby and some Gumbo Pot. So Grand Pabby specifically says, anytime that you remove a damage counter, you gain 2 lore. Gumbo Pot allows you to exert it to remove 1 damage counter from up to 2 different things of yours. So I would suggest cutting the 3 Noi and the Nick Wild to put this package in. You can essentially 1-turn kill your opponent and just defeat them by maxing out your lore immediately. If you get to enough lore, you can play 2 Pabbies. If you have your Gumbo Pots in play, as well as a Pawpsicle, you play both Pabbies. You play 2 Mother Gothels, which is 18 ink, and then you go Gumbo Pot to heal them both, Gumbo Pot to heal them both, and then you heal the remaining with Pawpsicle. That's 5 triggers times 4 lore. That's 20. So you can go from 0 lore all the way to 20. It is a 1-turn kill combo, which this game has not had a ton of up to this point. There are some other variations on it if you don't need the full 20. You can use a card like Teeth and Ambitions to put damage directly on the Pabbies if you don't need the full 20, because just the 2 Gumbo Pots already in play plus the 2 Pabbies. You play Teeth and Ambitions, deal 2 to this one, deal 2 to this one, remove those 4 damage counters, and that gets you 16 lore. So if you've already gained a bit of lore from some of your other cards, perhaps Flabbersham a few times, or maybe a Scar or a Tamatoa, then now there's this fanciful immediate win combo that your opponent doesn't have a lot of time to interact with, as long as you're able to live that long. So that is a very fun variation on the deck. If you are struggling against some of the other control decks, that is an interesting way that you can change it up to try and combat that. So again, this has been Jebas with the Dork Den. For more Lorcana content, check us out on YouTube. If you want any gameplay content as well, you can find me at twitch.tv/Jebas, and check us out on any of our socials. We have content all the time. Thanks for watching.